So after the game on our post-game show, we had gotten a lot of comments, and also we saw a lot of tweets about people saying, oh, Eric Bieniemy probably called plays this week because this looks so different, or Matt Nagy called plays this week. I think we even saw someone online tell JD, well, Matt Nagy was sitting with Mahomes. I didn't see Bieniemy on the bench with Mahomes. I saw Nagy with him, so he was obviously the one calling plays, which is ridiculous stuff. But JD made a point that it's a collaborative effort, play calling. So from a quarterback perspective, Tyler, because I think you have more to say on this one than somebody on in the Twitterverse saying that the quarterback coach is sitting with the QB, he's one calling plays, which is ridiculous. But from a QB perspective, can you kind of tell us what goes into the play calling and game planning involvement between the head coach, the quarterback coach, and the offensive coordinator?
As far as obviously Andy Reid's an offensive mind guy, so he's going to be pretty much imposing his more or less offense, and you got EB obviously with Eric Bieniemy and Nagy, but it's like one of those things to where, as far as if it's a head coach, if it's an offensive minded head coach like Chan Gailey for us, for instance, or whatever, he was always in the meeting rooms with us. You had your quarterback coach and your OC, which, our OC at the time actually was a running backs coach. But it was one of those things where Chan was still calling the plays. So Chan and the quarterbacks coach were in there. So as far as that, we always had essentially one coach that was calling the plays, but pretty much the quarterback coach, during the game is kind of the voice for the offensive coordinator in a sense, from that standpoint. So, to bounce back and forth that hey, maybe he did give the reins to EV one game to say, hey, I want to let him try to call the plays and see how that goes and whatnot. But as far as game planning, and guys, you got your pass game coordinators essentially your receiver coaches usually inputting more or less for the pass game. And then your running backs coaches more or less for your running game. And at the end of the day, everybody's got to be on the same page. To me, people are always like, why don't you coach or whatever? Why don't you, go to a high school and call plays and whatnot? I think it takes a great mind to think the process of calling plays because, 1st and 10, that's fine. You can call whatever you want. But then you get in that 2nd and long. It's like, what am I doing? I'm trying to get in 3rd and manageable, But then also I'm trying to say, hey, I know the defense is thinking that. Let me take a shot or whatever the case may be. You always got to be out thinking the defense depending on what the situation may be. So, but just to go back to with regards to the coaches and who was calling the plays, nobody knows that unless you're in the quarterback's headset or on the sideline or in the meeting rooms. So anybody can say all that stuff they want. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure Andy Reid's the one with the microphone talking to the quarterback and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. So I said it like this, and this is usually how these things work. Everybody on the offensive staff has headsets. The same with defensive staff. There's 3 voices that's everybody's listening to that will only speak unless spoken to. Unless you ask a direct question, the only ones you're going to hear is Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, and Nagy. That's what it's going to be. And more so, it's going to be Andy and EB going back and forth. And what ends up happening is EB says, okay, like Andy will say, well, what do you think about this? What do you look at? So that's part of the management aspect of it. And so when you get into the scenarios and situations, right? That's why you have that play sheet. Okay. Absolutely. So when you look over the play sheet, everybody has a play sheet. Well, why does everybody have a play sheet? Well, the reason the ones that are, very imperative in calling the plays and managing these things is because they are also the ones that's in the head and talking to, the one that's calling the plays. And look, we like Tyler said, we don't know as far as how it's delegated, who's calling the plays on certain things, but I guarantee when we sitting over here, we watching the running game that was being as successful as it was. Bieniemy had a hand in that. I guarantee it. Matter of fact, some of the pass plays also too. And so when somebody says, "Oh, well, the tempo of the game looked different," and I'm sitting there saying, "Well, how do you know that? How do you know who called the play then?" Right? This is speculation. Okay. And so I was sitting there saying that sometimes people making these points, but I'm like, either unless you are one of those people in the room, right, or unless you got a headset on, sitting at your house on the couch, you don't know. Yeah, that's the reality of it. But it is a collaborative effort. And so when I'm sitting there saying on the voices where there's not so much noise and things and what's happening, there's certain people that's going to speak unless spoken to. That's how it works. So when you're sitting over and you're saying it like the offensive mind coach, it's the same thing with Belichick. Belichick's the defensive mind coach. You think he's not sitting over here saying, hey, man, you know what? We need to run this. There's some things we need to do. Yeah, Matt Patricia's probably calling some plays up there. Absolutely calling the defense. But you think that Bill doesn't have any say? That's his defense. And so it's the same thing. Like, you know, we look, you got offensive philosophies and schemes. And so somebody made the point was, oh, well, this is Andy's offense. Okay. You know, him and Bieniemy's been together for the past 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. So the same thinking is going on. So it's almost like, well, before he says it, I know what he's thinking. Okay, because that's about being on the same page. And so what ended up happening, it wasn't like after Indy was over, Reed just came in and said, well, I'm just going to start running all the plays again. He came in, he talks to his staff. He talks to his guys. And he's sitting over here, and we're going to write everything up on the board. What went wrong? What didn't go right? Why did it look like this? What was the tempo? How did it feel? What did Patrick like? Pat, come in here. I want to talk to you. What do you think? What did you like? And so when the guy was sitting there saying that the quarterback coach was on the bench with Mahomes, I mean, he's a QB coach.
Yeah, what's he supposed to be doing?
What's he supposed to be doing? Right. Is he supposed to be over with the kicker? Is he over with the water boy? I mean, please help me out, because I thought his role is quarterback coach. Absolutely. Why would you not want the quarterback coach talking to the quarterback? Oh, well, just look different. Well, we don't see the camera on the sideline every waking moment. We just don't. And so our eyes will see what we want to see, right? Or just look different. I'm just like, man, you know what? They just need to quit with this, because sometimes when I think this is where kind of like the whole, that's like Figs is talking about. That's our experience. Okay. That's our experience of what we know, like how these things work on the sideline or in meeting rooms and whatnot. I'm like, y'all don't understand how these things actually work and how these things really talk. It's the same thing. Like we talk to people, they're called down on the bat phone. Hey, AD, what's going on? You know, to speak to me. It ain't like, you know, they give me the headset, you know, because they don't want that noise on there. So it's different. And like you said, Thiggs, I think the main point is nobody truly knows unless you actually have a headset on and you call the plays and you hear it. Well, oh, that's Andy. Yeah, that's Andy making the call, right?
And to touch on that too, I would be blown away if Andy's calling one play and then next thing you know, EB's calling another play. Like, you know, to me, in my experience and in the 7 years that I was in the league, you know, that's one thing that it was the same voice week in and week out. You know, during practice during the week, you know, the OC would more or less write up the script. You'd have your plays, and the quarterback coach usually would probably call the plays in the headset. Mm-hmm. And just to give the OC a chance to step back, look at everything, so he's not sitting there reading off the paper. That way he's kind of monitoring the whole thing. You know, it's kind of different because some head coaches, you know, whether they be offensive mind or defensive mind, they're not always in the meetings. Like Herm Edwards, you know, he was always in there. But you had old Gunther Cunningham, who was the DC. You know, did Herm probably give his input? Yeah, but for the most part, you know, that was kind of Gunther's offense or defense, excuse me. Right, but, you know, as far as Chan Gailey, I don't think Herm Edwards ever came and sat in the office when Chan Gailey was the OC. So, or sat in the meeting room. So, you know, from the standpoint of that, it's just kind of one of those things to where you don't exactly know what's going on throughout the week, prepping for it and how it's going. But I would be blown away if different coaches are calling different plays through the headset. Because I don't even know if I think only one headset, if I'm not mistaken, it could be different now. Only one headset has access to the quarterback's microphone.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard a quarterback coach or any other coach talk through my headset.
Right. No. It's only one coach that's putting in plays. Right. But the coaches have, like, you know, to them.
Oh, they're all connected.
Yeah, they're all connected. And so, like, one of the other points I wanted to make was this. Okay, so if Bieniemy isn't really part of calling the plays, right? If he's not doing any of those things, then why make all the fuss about Patrick going to Bieniemy and fussing at him about a play? He's like, look, because Bieniemy like that, I ain't in it. I ain't make no calls. You know what I'm saying? Like, why you come fussing at me? I ain't call nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, why come over and just make it a point like, oh, well, he's upset about this and all of that? You know, why does Andy Reid have to talk Patrick down if Bieniemy is not actually the guy that's calling the plays? You know what I'm saying? Why is he's not the one scripting things? He's not the one. Why go to him? What are you going to say? Like, I just don't like the way you look, with your face. I heard you laughing. Like, what is that? You just going to picking on the enemy? Because I'm like, look, man, I ain't in it. I ain't calling none of these plays. I'm just sitting over here. They just gave me the title, but I'm not doing nothing, Pat. Why are you coming over messing with me? Right? So that's why the enemy is like, man, calm down. We got it. Just relax. Take it easy. You know what I'm saying? We going in. So that's why I'm saying, like, it's just, that's why I think people don't quite they get how these things work. You know what I'm saying? And like, and being a coach, college and things like that, like you realize the noise that you can't have all these voices talking to the one person, right? You just can't do it. That's just not how it works. And so I just had to say that point, man, because it's just when you hear things like that, oh my gosh, well, it looks like one guy said that the analysis, I looked over, I don't even know what words he said, but it was something silly. Like I looked over the tempo or something. Remember I sent it to you, Marcus? Yeah. And I'm like, how do you know? Like, how did you know that this is Andy calling the play and the enemy calling the play? How do you know that? Through your analysis? That's what you got from this? Like, without any type of facts or anything like that. You just guessed, but this is stuff. He called it stuff. Offensive stuff. So, I don't know, man. I think what happens, and Tyler, this is why I got upset with it, is because sometimes these things are dismissive of EB. Okay, it's dismissive of these other guys. And also, too, it actually calls in, sometimes Andy's decision about the guys that he has coaching for him or coaching with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like the incompetence is like, well, why would you have this guy be an OC if he's not even, part of like your plan of doing anything, right? Yeah. Why even go out here and say that EB calling the plays if he's not actually the guy calling the plays? Like, why even go out there and scream it to the world? Hey, guess what? EB do call plays. To me, it's maddening because what it does, it plays into that narrative of, well, EB is not a good coach, or EB, he's not this, he's why he's not a head coach, and this, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's dismissive and it's hurtful and it's slanderous. That's the way I look at it. And so regardless who's the one making those calls, all those guys, it's a collaborative effort every single week when they go in there. Okay. It's not some one guy. These guys are getting together, and they've been together like that for 10 years during the off season. Times that they don't want to be together. Hey, they probably calling each other on the phone when they get home, like, hey, man, you know what? I was just thinking about this. What do you think about that? It happens all the time. I mean, when you sitting over in your head, Tyler, I know you probably, as a quarterback, how many times you sleeping and you done ran about 100 plays in your head while when you're tired, you sleep. You dreaming plays, right?
Hey, what if we do this? And you're going to give your input, especially with Patrick. And those guys are going to butt heads because they're both, offensive-minded guys. They're great. I think EB's a great coach. He was the running backs coach in Minnesota when I got drafted there. And I think Patrick Mahomes. And I think when those, like you said, those guys are in the room together all the time, you're going to butt heads. Spend every waking day with your wife, and let me know. You're going to butt heads. I mean, that's just the competitive nature necessarily in that realm. And when things didn't go well, like they didn't against Indianapolis, guess what? You're going to be upset. You're going to be mad, or what I could have done, or you screwed up the play calling, or whatever it might have been. I mean, that's natural. So, and obviously nowadays the cameras are going to catch every single thing, and someone's going to say one story and they're going to run with it. Now here's this controversy, but then nobody's talking about it now because they go out and do what they did against Tampa Bay, and they're like, "Who the heck was that? That wasn't the team we saw in Indy."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Hey, look, last time I checked, coaches can't block players. Coaches can't catch the football, right? And coaches can't throw the ball. They can't do none of that. They can't tackle. So it's on the guys to do that. That's what you pay the guys to do, okay?
That's it.
To execute the game. The game plan has to be put in by the coaches to put them in the right position to make the plays. The players got to make the plays, though, period. That's all it is. That's what it boils down to.
Absolutely.
Tyler, since you weren't on the show last week when we kind of discussed that halftime little spat between EB and Mahomes, the disagreement they had, this is kind of thing JD was saying, it's not uncommon, like you kind of said, it's not uncommon for coaches and players to kind of, have those kind of things. Did you ever have that as a quarterback with because you offensive-minded guys, may have a difference of, a play call being called there or whatnot. Did you ever have that with any quarterback coach or, OC?
No, I probably saw some of that. I remember Damon at one point that had that kind of, he was a veteran at the time, and and Chan kind of came in his first year, and they had some different words. It wasn't really anything, crazy by any means. And then, as far as that, but, being a backup majority, when I was a starter, I didn't really have any of that. I mean, it was I was still wet behind the ears, essentially, playing in Kansas City as a young buck. I was just doing what I was told and going out there and executing as best I could. So, as far as that, but you got somebody like Patrick and EB and Coach Reed that have been together for what, 6 years, 5-6 years now? What is it? Or 7 years?
This is year 6, 5th year as a starter for Pat.
Yeah. So, I mean, those guys, they spend every waking moment together. So to see, Patrick Mahomes, like, he's got that relationship to where he probably feels that he can, push back on EB, whereas me, I didn't really feel like I ever had that kind of strong of a 6-year essentially bond with a coach, essentially.
Right. Hey, you was trying to keep a damn job.
That's it. Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you talking back? You said something? Oh.
Hey, I remember one time Brian Waters' rookie year. I remember he cussed out. I don't know who it was he cussed out. And you remember Brian, right? B. Waters?
Of course. Yeah.
I'm sitting there as a rookie. I'm like, damn, he just cussed the coach out like that? And then, I think either Tony or somebody, I'm like, hey, he's making more than coaches. He can say what the hell he wants to. I'm like,
right.
All right. So, I mean, it's just different. It's a business at the end of the day. It really is. A lot of people don't see that side of it. But, at the end of the day, I know at the end of the day, they probably wouldn't say made up in the locker room, probably didn't talk much, essentially until they got back. But guess what? They were in the meeting room together on Monday or Tuesday, and here they are executing the game plan the way it was, set up, and they won the game on Sunday.
Yeah.
And JD, the tweet you're referring to was our guy Eric Eager, who's been our we've gone back and forth with him on Twitter before. The person tweeted at him, "Can we fire EB yet?" His response was, "He doesn't call the plays. I've looked into play caller uniqueness stuff, and Andy has these lulls where he just doesn't bring his A game to games, especially this time of year. I'm guessing he'll be dialed in Sunday against the Bucs, but we'll see."
Yeah. Play calling uniqueness stuff.
This is an analytics guy, by the way. Play caller uniqueness stuff. What do they have numbers for that now? I mean, I don't
know. Yeah.
Armchair quarterback.
Exactly.
Yeah. How did you gather the information to get to that uniqueness of the, crazy.
It's crazy, man. People like this can tweet out stuff and they're seen as an analyst. Well, he used to be a PFF guy, so that also goes to show it shows you where they get their analytics. He looked into play caller uniqueness stuff, and that's somehow they get their numbers from that.
Right. I don't know, man.
PFF's making a killing off of some of these people who love this information, man.
Hey.
And that's the thing. We don't even know where you get this stuff. How do you quantify play caller uniqueness stuff? How do you quantify that? What is that?
Just leave a brawl, and people ask the question, but you're never going to find out. It's as a writer, I'm assuming he hopes somebody forgets about it in 2 days, and nobody's going to ask him that question. When he's on the hot seat.
Yeah, he's like, oh, that sounds credible.
Yeah,
the uniqueness stuff. Wow. Okay.
Here we are talking about it.
Right.
And we invited this guy on our show to talk stuff, and he ignored it. So
yeah,
that's all right. So we can leave his uniqueness stuff for his own blog or whatever.
You would literally have to go back to every single play that Andy has ever been involved in to even come to try to quantify what his running style and everything is, right? And he will still be wrong. You probably still be off,
Yeah.
But hey, uniqueness stuff. You got it.
That's crazy. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get podcasts.